Questions? Sally?
Hi. I actually brought my CMP bill with me, and it says electricity supply smart energy. I think that I signed up for that with CMP. How do I get rid of it if I want to sign up for the community solar?
So what is smart energy? Can anybody answer that question? And is that a form of community solar? Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, sure.
So in Maine, you can do the standard option, and Maine and CMP decides, they just have this mix, or you can choose one of these that this individual just mentioned. You can choose specifically which company you want to choose, but none of those are community solar companies. So the way to answer your question, how do you switch? You talk to community solar, you talk to Nautilus, you talk to Sunrays, you talk to PowerMart, you choose one of them, they take care of it. You're done. They want to see your bill, they take care of it, you don't have to do another thing.
Is that correct, representatives of the companies nodding? Okay.
And I just want to clarify, we build solar farms. I am not involved in subscribing you, so please don't take my talk as a sales pitch, okay?
Thank you for clarifying that. Other questions?
Smart Energy is one of about 150 companies that you can sign up with through CMP. You can also call the Maine Public Utilities Commission has a hotline that they'll talk to you about it. There's the Public Advocate, which will also talk to you. You can call Smart Energy. You can call I have CF Brown, which is a hydro company. There are hydro, solars, and turbines. And you can do a mixture of them if you want to.
So it is some form of renewable energy.
Smart Energy has a mixture of renewable energies, but it's a company. And on your bill, you'll find that even if you have smart energy, or even if you have renewable energy, there's still a $1 fee for renewable energy, and that goes to Efficiency Maine. And I wanted to say to Fred that the first thing you should do with your homes are make sure that they're insulated. No sense in putting solar panels on and putting heat pumps in and having it go through the walls or the windows. Get your house insulated. Thank you.
Thank you. That's a wonderful comment, and I think that sort of is the foundation, right, is to be using LED lights and to make sure that our houses are insulated as well as possible so that we reduce our energy demand to start with.
And you're right, weatherization is, if you want to move to number 4, that's probably number 4, maybe it's even higher, but I'm trying to tie this into community solar today, but we are currently running a weatherization campaign in York. We've had 28 people sign up in the last couple of weeks. We've set them up with Green Cocoon, which is a weatherization company, to come to their house, give them a free estimate, and we're coordinating with Efficiency Maine and making sure they get the 50% rebates on the insulation. So you're right, that is important, but to me, the first thing you got to do is you got to switch the incoming power to a renewable. That's the first thing you got to do. It's the low-hanging fruit. The average weatherization is going to cost you $2,500 to $10,000. It's doable. And we all have to do it, but it's not the low-hanging fruit that we're talking about tonight.
Okay, so you had a question, yes.
So I'm signed up for a company called Nexamp because I was getting all those things in the mail. They were great about explaining it, but you keep mentioning a checklist and a way to compare them. And that's what I have no clue how. You mentioned you have something on your site. How do we get, for somebody that's, I looked at Public Utilities Commission and I just couldn't handle all the different sites and names.
On the KitteryCAN site, if you go to the climate adaptation page.
So that's not a site until I saw this. I'm signed up to the library and the community center. That's how I heard about this. And I was like, finally somebody's going to help me figure out which company. Because, again, I'm signed up, but it won't be available probably till December. And I signed up a few months ago.
Yeah, well,
But-
Nextamp has had some delays in building
Right,
their
and they're also
farms.
out of Massachusetts, I think, which is still better than, but
Yeah, the
just
company is in
kind of things-
Massachusetts, the farms are in Maine, though.
They are?
Yes.
So that's what I was looking for when I saw this. I was like, somebody's going to help us figure out all the stuff coming in the mail, you know, and they were great about saying I can cancel, and it will, you know, everything that you're saying matches up with the people that I talked to. They were very good. But I still just kind of like, which one to pick? Is there any difference, one better than the other? How do we figure that out? And it sounds like you have a checklist that we could link to.
So what we've done in York, and I think the KitteryCAN site has a link to it, at yorkecohomes.com, and we have our 5 or 6 initiatives, and one is switch your electricity supply to solar, and it just gives you a table of the 5 or 6 companies in Maine that offer it, and you know, when the next one's available, what's the percent savings, how many days to get out if you want to get out. So those are the key questions. And I can tell you that honestly, the 3 companies here today, they're at the top of our list, and the people that we've directed to them, or York Eco Homes, have been lucky enough to sign enough people that they've been very pleased, for the most part, absolutely.
I think, Betty, you might be able to answer the question as well, because you spent a lot of time comparing these responses from companies. Why don't you take the mic, please?
Hi, everyone. So I helped to vet the companies that we chose, and I spoke to Fred and looked at their website and we came up with a series of questions, is what you're asking. We came up with a series of questions, and then I sent them to the companies that we thought, after looking at the York website, we wanted to choose like 3 top ones. And so we sent the questions to them. Right now, on our website, KCAN's website, we have those questions up and their answers. So you can look at their answers, and then you can use those questions to talk to NextCan. Is that helpful?
Great.
And can I just add one thing?
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, and just to clarify, so for example, I'm not sure about this, but I would think Nexamp is kind of like a company like Rewild. They might be the one that built the solar farm, but most of your interaction is not going to be with us. So like we're local, we're based in Portsmouth, we live in New Hampshire and Maine, but you as a subscriber, you probably wouldn't talk to me. You're going to talk to someone from Arcadia or Power Market or Nautilus. So I think those are the companies that you're really interested in knowing, like what's their customer service like? Are they local? Because they're the ones that are going to sort of help you if you have questions or stuff like that.
That is something that I have learned through this process, is that there are the companies that build the farms, and we have representatives from some of those companies here, not just then there are the people who sign up the customers. And that's who we have. But they're really 2 fundamentally different things from the consumer point of view.
Nextamp, though, I believe is a consumer. You sign up with them, they provide the customer service, so.
Okay, I don't know. Thank
Yeah.
you.
How about the gentleman there, and then we'll get to Faith and then Jerry.
Thanks. I guess my question is, I wonder how successful we have been so far in terms of percentage of solar being used in our state, and perhaps what some of the projections are for the next year, 2 or 3 or 5.
What's our percentage of solar use in Maine at the statewide level? Does anyone have that information? Maybe.
I think CMP is, you got 3%. It's somewhere between 3 and 6. That's the CMP percentage. How many people have switched over to community solar? Maybe one of the 3 representatives could talk about it, if that's what you're referring to.
Yeah, I mean, the program is brand new. So, I think everybody is just starting to sign up. And I know we started working in Maine in 2019 when the legislation went into place. So if that helps give some perspective on time. In terms of total penetration, it's going to be really important that your grid keeps up with all this demand for solar. So the infrastructure that's carrying all this solar power is critically important, and both CMP and Versant, which are, the utilities we deal with in Maine, they need to make capital investments in your grid to make sure that that number and percentage can continue to grow. So make sure your legislator knows you're interested in this issue, and that, you want to make sure CMP is planning for those investments so that you guys as Maine residents can see that continue to grow over time.
I just have a simple question. Revision Energy is considered a big player. Why are they not represented here tonight?
Tonight is the focus on community solar, and Revision has a model of community solar that Fred described, but we anticipate that Revision will be joining us at the workshop we're having on June 2nd about rooftop solar, because for sure Revision is such a major player in that space. If you'd like to amplify.
No, that's accurate. They're very new to community solar. I'm not sure it's even up and running yet, so it's a very new thing for them. They are the first. Their first one is this ownership model. So
I have rooftop solar. I have shares in a community solar farm through Revision. Revision has at least 2 community solar farms, and they're building another one for utilities.
Okay.
Utilities are like power plants
I
and
assure you, they're both brand new.
power plants and water facilities and transfer stations and municipalities.
We're certainly not implying that these 3 are the only 3. There are many options. As a little group of folks trying to inform the community about community solar, we did, I think you guys did a great job of vetting. There for sure are other options. So we have one question in the back, then we're going to get down here to Jerry and Polly.
Actually, I have 2 questions, but you can take either one or neither. One is, I don't understand what the model is in the relation with CMP. Do the solar farm owners get paid directly by CMP for the power that they produce, and then they pass it on to us? Or I don't understand that model. But
Okay.
also, are there any examples in Maine of solar farms being owned by municipalities to provide very locally, maybe outside of the CMP grid, or whatever electrical needs? And is that even under consideration by anybody to have decentralized solar farms for local communities?
I can speak to the first question, and I'm going to do this in a broad stroke. It gets a little technical, but in general, if you sign up for community solar, and I should defer to some of the reps here who'll know this answer better than I, but if you sign up for community solar, they look at your CMP, how many kilowatts you burn a year, they assign you enough panels, they put your CMP account number assigned to a certain number of panels. So those panels, CMP every month reads how many kilowatts of power were generated by your panels, and this is where I'm going to broad stroke it a little bit. They just take that number of kilowatts and they issue a credit at the standard option rate, which most of us pay. That some of us are on SMART and some of the other 100 ones, but in general, most people are on the standard rate. They apply the standard rate, which is the cost per kilowatt. You generate 100 kilowatt hours, they multiply it by whatever that number is, and they credit your bill for that, okay? So you will see a credit on your CMP bill for X amount, and what the community solar subscription company that you sign up for looks at that number, let's say it's $100, and then they bill you. So you get a credit for $100, they bill you, depending on their plan, it's either 10 or 15%, they bill you for either 90% of that or 85% of that. So that $100 you get a credit for, and then you're going to get a bill from a Nautilus or a Power Market for $85 or $90, and there's your savings. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and you can kind of think of the grid as like a big settlement system, and there's all sorts of ways that power gets purchased from renewables, but one way is sort of like we as the solar farm, we put it out onto the grid, and then CMP essentially is looking at your consumption and our production, and they can kind of settle it out once it's, being transmitted, but it comes out to exactly the result. Yeah, it's not easy, believe me. I work in this field, and I think every time I see one of these new arrangements, I have to figure it all out. And then what was your second question? Could you just?
The question was whether there are municipalities. And I believe that we have a bunch of experts in the room here. Jerry may be familiar.
Elliott, for example, has put solar power at their
It's on.
at the transfer station. So if you go past our transfer station, our recovery center, our dump, and you go to Elliott, you'll see the solar field that's out there. And Elliott's also put solar panels up on their DPW that's there as well. So other local municipalities have gone the route of putting up solar on municipal buildings.
But those are powering the municipal needs, right? Those aren't farms that the community can buy into.
Correct.
Yeah.
So the tool by which residents would subscribe to something like that is something called aggregation, and it's kind of a different, it's different than community solar, I think. I don't know.
Yeah. And I just want to, I believe, and the people from representing the companies can clarify this. I believe that the deal is you get 10 or 15% off the total bill and not just off the source. Because I signed up for one that's offering me that, which is similar to what the town has signed up for as well. So you're getting a percentage off the entire bill, not just off the supply side.
Not if it's community solar.
I'm seeing some of the company reps shaking their heads but you got a good deal, Jerry.
And the only other way to answer that question is if you're on the CMP grid, if you're Kittery, we're all on the CMP grid, we can't have a solar farm that feeds our homes directly. We have to go through that grid. The only thing that comes to mind is Kennybunk Power, right? They have their own grid, I believe. And so if Kennybunk wants to build a solar farm, they can power their own grid and feed their own residents. But otherwise, we're subject to CMP and Versant's grids.
That is far out. We want to be like Kennybunk, right? Did you have a question, or you want to? Here's the mic.
Well, I just wanted to bring up the point that it's interesting, the argument for the rest of the state to have a community-owned utility. Because coming from Kennybunk, I mean, first of all, I live in Kennebunkport now, but I lived in Kennybunk for years, and the rates are so much cheaper, basically, because of the community-owned utility, and the service is so much better, way more reliable. And like you said, we have, what is it, a 3 megawatt, solar array in Kennybunk that's feeding the Kennybunk Light and Power Company. So there are just so many options right now for community-owned utility.
That's very exciting. I think Kittery and York, I'm not a competitive person. However, anyone who knows me knows that's a big fat lie. But I think we should duke it out and see who we can.
Absolutely.
And then now we have to compete with Kennybunk to get our own town utility.
Now I'm out.
Raising the stakes here. Texas, yeah, look how well that turned out in Texas, right?
Not so successful.
Are there other questions?
The only other comment I wanted to make is most of the cities in the country that have been able to get to 100% renewables really quickly have all been community-owned utilities.
Community-owned utilities. I want to thank our panelists so much. And I invite, so we have representatives, as noted, from Ampion. We have Kate here. From Nautilus, we have Chris and Rajiv. And from Power Market, we have Olivia. And they're going to set up here at tables, and people are welcome to come ask questions, take information, and if you are so inclined, sign up for Community Solar right here and now. So thank you, and thanks to Kittery Community Center, Jeremy Paul, thanks to Channel 22, Amanda in the booth. Thank you for coming.